Hey guys, good afternoon, and welcome to another community conversation with Councilwoman Tamika Isaac Devine. I am Tamika Isaac Devine, and I'm excited because this is the end of Teacher Appreciation Week, and we are excited because today we're going to have another amazing guest. I am looking forward to welcoming in just a few minutes Regina Williams, who is a community advocate. She's a 30-year educator. She's a mom. She's a friend. She's an amazing woman. And I messed up because I sent her the wrong link. So I just had to send her the right one. And hopefully she's going to come on in just a second. But as we've been celebrating Teacher Appreciation Week this week, I've wanted to bring you guests that can talk about education in South Carolina, education in this nation. How do we work together as a community, as parents, as teachers, as community leaders, community advocates to support, number one, our kids and their success and that they thrive, but also to make sure that they are, I'm going to invite her again just in case this isn't working. Make sure that they are thriving and that they are very successful, because we know if we do not have successful kids and a successful education system, then that is when we have other issues within our community. So I am just excited. Hey, Gary, I really wanted to be here, but I got an offer on a house. Oh, I got to take care. That's important. Realtors have to get out there. I have to actually leave here because I have a 2:30 closing. I do real estate closings in my law firm. So I got to leave here at 2:30. So I understand you can come back on and watch the replay. So, but thank you for signing in. But we know that if, we want to point to and look at all the things within our community that we say are not going well, but yet we still don't support our education system in the way that it needs to be. And so I thought that Regina was the perfect person to finish up our week because, as someone who works tirelessly, and when I say tirelessly, she works tirelessly within the community to make sure that people's needs are met. But she also, like I said, is a mom and an educator. So she gets all of that. And here she is. So I'm going to add her now. Hey there. I went ahead and gave your intro so we didn't lose any time. Hi, Regina.
Hi.
Hey, I told them it was my fault. I sent you the wrong link, and I'm still learning the software. So I went on and I didn't go live. I put it in record mode, so I had to go out and redo it again. So, but welcome, and thank you for joining me today.
It is such an honor. People think that I'm just out there, and I'm just really, no, I'm so honored. I'm so honored.
Well, I'm honored to have you because I think the reason I really wanted you is because you bring in the connection of so many different things. I mean, as I was sharing with the audience before you came in, you are a 30-year educator. You are a mom. You have your daughter. I mean, you've grown up in the community. And you are a community advocate. I mean, you spend every single waking moment, whether when you were in the schools or out and about, empowering your community, making sure that the voices of folks who sometimes feel like they're voiceless are being heard, fighting for, what you believe needs are. And I think, as our mayor always talks about, you give that really good tension, because even for us as elected leaders, I consider you a friend, and I love you to talk to you about, your business and what you're doing and all that other stuff. But you have no problem picking up the phone as advocate and me as city councilwoman and say, wait up, city's not doing this, or picking up the phone and calling Jamie and saying, hey, I love you, bro, but as school board member, look, this is what our kids need, and this is what we're expecting. So I think that way you have learned to do all that. So many people don't have that they don't have that confidence to do that. And we need more people to have that confidence to do that. And hopefully before we end, we can talk about this as well. Because one of the things that you and I talked about that you really would like to do, now that you have, given, 30 years to the school system, and you're looking at starting the next chapter of your life, you starting a business where you are training people and teaching people to not just rely on people like you to be their voice, but to gain that confidence and that voice in themselves. And
Right.
so needed, as someone who's been an elected official for so long, and so needed, because I sometimes it still surprises me, because I mean, I feel like, okay, I'm Tamika, yeah, I'm city councilwoman, but I'm Tamika. I mean, I'm sitting here, no makeup on, with my little, my kids will probably run in here in a minute. I feel like I'm so like accessible, down to earth, everything else. But even with me, I feel like, when I hear people say, well, I really, I wanted to call you, but I was scared. I didn't think you would call me back or whatever. I've realized that even those of us who are truly, out there trying to make people feel like, hey, I'm your advocate, I'm your voice on city council, call me. People, for some reason, various reasons, don't do that. And so we got to get more people. We got to give them that confidence and that education, and give them the tools to be their own advocates so that we can get what we need. So we're going to get there. I'm going to make sure we do that at the very last bit, because we need to talk about that. But first of all, let's talk about, so as a third-year educator, your primary focus has been as a reading coach and a reading specialist. And it always bothers me, and when I say this, and when people have not heard this fact, they're like, oh, that really truly can't be true. But it always just like pains me so much when I hear about, like, for governments, as they're planning, planning the building of prisons and things, they look at the third grade reading scores to figure out how they need to plan for these kids' futures. And it is so disheartening when you think about how there is, people are making predictions about these children based on their ability or inability to comprehend reading at such a, they're babies. At third grade, they're still babies. And so I know enough to be dangerous about that. But from your experience, can you speak a little bit about that? Now, this isn't a bashing, being critical of folks, but just from your experience, kind of what do you see, and where are we still lacking in making sure that our children are being able to read at grade level by the third grade?
Okay. Let me first say that for the last 24 years, I taught sixth grade, and sixth graders are special people. They're not babies, they're not adults, and they're finding their way. And I learned so much from those sixth graders. I was able to see if they were coming ready, coming prepared, if they were prepared, but they were scared to show people they were prepared. And then I got into the reading coach, reading interventionist part of education. So when Nikki Haley, about 6 years ago, put the Read Succeed into place, she created a reading coach perspective. And the job was to make sure to analyze scores, testing scores, and to assist teachers with preparing children to be able to read on grade level by the third grade. So when we looked at that, we started having to go back and know that children will just not magically be able to read on grade level when they walk to school for the year. And therefore, we are not lacking in the schools because the tools are in place, with the teachers having early intervention in pre-K and having to meet certain guidelines or certain levels, the children, uh, then kindergarten, then first grade, they have to have met certain marks. second grade, they have to have met certain marks in order to be prepared to score effectively on the third grade test and be ready to meet those third grade marks. So where we're lacking, I would say, would be um, before the children get to school. Before
Those early
children,
childhood years, those
the
the 0
early
to
the early childhood years. And my daughter always says I embarrass her because when I'm in the stores and I see the little children in the carts or, in the different places, and I just talk with the parents freely. And I say, are you reading? Are you taking your child and showing them different things as you travel? Or are you saying goo goo, boo boo, and pookie? No, our children are wonderful. They're sponges. And if you give them solid words, when they get to that level, when they get into the first grade, they should actually be knowing about 20,000 words. So if you are preparing the child before they get to the school, then once they get into the pre-K and the first kindergarten, then that gives the teachers a leg up. And that's what a lot of people think that maybe it's too early for the children to be learning words and they should be playing, but teach them through play, and they will still learn those words. Um, Indeed, third grade is a very important grade, and another thing that troubles me is as I'm going down Broad River Road towards Publix and towards Valentine area, and you look to the left and you see the detention center for the children, the
TJJ.
DJJ. They're building new barracks. They're building something over there to house more children. How do they know that they need these? They're looking at what the children are doing now. They're looking at what the children are doing now, and they're determining what's needed there. So it is our responsibility as a community to make sure they need to build houses outside the prison than inside the prison.
Yeah, I mean that gets me all the time, and that's one of the biggest statistics, and that's why I am such a big advocate for reading. Which, um, that's why we started together. We can read at the city because we don't manage the school district or anything. But I felt like as a community, there's something we could do, and part of that is at least getting community leaders in and reading with our kids because reading is so important. And all my kids and my little ones, but people are always kind of shocked, like when like even Jameson, he's 3, and when he can, he has these conversations, and you're right. I mean, we never did that, the baby words and baby talk to him. We were always talking to him, even at 2 months, talking to him. It's like, mommy's gonna change your clothes now. Oh, give me that arm, and I made sure he understood. I talked to him so that he would constantly be hearing words. And then, of course, running behind these 2 big girls,
Yes.
he's a big boy, so he's learning a whole lot. But that says a whole lot. So that kind of takes me to the whole premise for this conversation. I think that, and how do I say this? I'm just, me, I'm just gonna say it. So I think that sometimes it frustrates me because I'm in lots of rooms and I hear lots of things, and and as I transition and balance the different rooms I'm in, it always really frightens me that people are very quick to make an assumption about what parents are not doing. Well, this child is in a single parent home in a low wealth community, so of course they're not going to do well in school. or yeah, this child got in trouble because well, what do you expect, because of where they are. And I we are too quick to there is definitely parental responsibility. There is definitely certain indicators about where a child is the environment a child is coming from that will talk about kind of, or will may influence the way they perform at school. But that's only a certain percentage. I mean, there is
Yes.
still a whole lot that we can do instead of assuming that this child is not going to be successful because of the environment they come out of. Why don't more of us say, well, what can I do to support that environment that that child is in, and help provide resources, mentoring, support, something. And so you have done a really good job at being able to do the same thing, walk in, be in those different areas, different rooms, see the perspective from the educators, and see the the needs in the community, and be in the rooms with the elected officials and advocate. um, where do you feel like we are lacking? I mean, where as a community are we? I mean, I know there's probably lots of areas, but where are we failing these kids? And what can we be doing as a community, whether you have children in school or not?
Okay. I'm so happy that you asked that question. And I am so happy that I am at the 30-year mark so that I can answer that question. So, let me say, I'm a product of the 29203 zip code. What used to be Washington Carver Village, which is now the Colony Apartments. I lived there twice. My grandmother started working at Rosewood Elementary School in 1964 as a custodian. Um, then, when I walked through that school as a reading coach, I reflect on where I was and where I am. And I thank God that his promises are yes and amen. I also went to Hayward Gibbs Middle School and Eau Claire High School, graduated from those schools. I say that to say that was my community. Where I feel, and I always say that so that people will know that I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth, but I was born with a community at my feet. And where we are lacking is the school system reaching out and involving the, the community, the community leaders. People sometimes think they know what's best. But if you have not talked to the people who are out there, many times you only assume. Folk looking into our community may look and say, well, what do you expect? Look at how they're outside all night. They're not doing, or all afternoon after school. They're not doing their homework. Where are their parents? Well, their parents are working 2 and 3 jobs. They're there with auntie or the neighbor who keeps them in a safe place until the parents get home from work. Um, and it's just a lot of negative assumptions that are not true. I think one of the places we are lacking is reaching out into the community. That's the first thing.
So
And
what does that look like? Give me an example. Like, what would that outreach look like if you were queen for a day? What would that outreach look like?
that outreach looks like each school looking into the area where the children come from and finding out who are the village griots, who are the village people, who are the leaders in those villages, and how can that leader in that village help this school to make an attachment to the environment where our children are coming from, or from which our children come. So that principal, that parent interventionist, that social worker, that guidance counselor would call Miss Jane. Miss Jane, what's going on? Is it anything that's happening in the neighborhood that we should know about? Or is it anything that we can do to make a connection? Well, we tried this at the school. How about, is there a place over there where we can come and we can have a game night, or where we can come and we can distribute interim reports, or where we can come and we can have meetings with parents? How is so and so? Is and just making a connection. You don't have to personal give personal information, but have some sort of feel for the environment from which the children come. Or Miss Jane could come and call the school and say, we didn't have a good night here in our neighborhood. We had a big argument out that spilled outside, or we had a shooting. And the children may come a little anxious that day, so that when the child goes into the class anxious, and the teacher is there trying to teach the other 25 to 30 children, then the teacher can ask for assistance, and the people in the front of the school may know what's going on or what happened in that child's life that night. And they won't be so quick to put them out or form an untrue assumption. Because one thing I've seen, some of the most mislabeled children, when you have a one-to-one conversation with those children, they are some of the most smartest children that I've ever had a conversation with. And that's because they learn a lot in their environment. And it is our responsibility to just guide them, take what they know and turn it into a positive if it is assumed to be a negative. Is that my James? Hi there, caring is sharing.
Caring.
Yes.
Yeah, he has shared himself all over the cupcakes that his sister made last night. So, to me, you gonna say sharing is caring?
Sharing.
Come clean him up, please.
What is that?
My mommy.
What is that?
Thank you.
And
Let her clean you up.
One thing I will share with you is when Jameson taught me that, when he taught me that phrase,
Sharing is caring.
as I was working with children in the colony and they were coming up getting fruits and vegetables, I said to them, so I learned from a 3-year-old, and I gave them a banana and I said, sharing is caring.
Yeah, and he has a little song and everything. He loves it.
So you see how that came from your house to me, and then I put it somewhere.
Yeah. Let me share what Natalie's saying. So Natalie says in her past work, she worked with the community delivering outreach programs to underprivileged and underserved populations. One of the most successful programs she oversaw involved parental involvement. Seeing the parents become empowered and involved gave me a great sense of fulfillment. As a parent educator, former volunteer in the school system, I too have seen the issue from various lenses. Again, I agree that outreach is essential and the community should have input in how we reach the families. Too often we develop programs for students and their families based on our assumptions, and it fails. If we simply ask the families what they want, it creates a buy-in and increases the likelihood of involvement. That is so true, because as you were talking, Regina, and the thing I was thinking, and I say this all the time, and yesterday you saw our community conversation yesterday with Christy Schrader and SC for Ed, and kind of advocacy and the things that the teachers actually need in the classroom. But one of the things that a lot of my friends who are teachers actually in the classroom talk about is we don't even really have an opportunity to talk about the fact that the most of the time teaching becomes the third or fourth thing that they're having to do, because they are having to be social worker and deal with all that stuff you were talking about that comes in even before they can get to the kid ready for, the learning environment, because of the things that they are seeing and experiencing. I will say I'm so proud that our police department has a program called Handle with Care, where
Yes.
if they respond in the community to the shooting or domestic violence situation or something like you've mentioned, then they write that up and give that information to the school.
Yes.
Where I do feel, and I tell my school board member all the time, where I do feel like we need to make sure that information is definitely disseminated to the teachers, but then also that there is that extra support, a system that goes into figuring out how do we address the whole child because of all the things that they're dealing with. So yeah.
Well,
and Natalie also says, thanks to Regina for her courage to speak honestly about this issue. Yes, definitely.
Thank you, Natalie. I appreciate
So go ahead.
One thing too, Tamika, is what has changed in the school system. Teachers have always had the burden of being the second mother, keeping crackers in the drawer for the child who may be hungry, keeping an extra shirt or something over here for a child who may need an undershirt or something. And of course, we have places in the schools now to handle a lot of those situations. But what has changed is the level of things that the teachers have to be responsible for, the testing, the high levels of accountability. That has changed tremendously. So it's teaching and getting across the information to the children. That is extremely, extremely important. And it makes a difference in a teacher's livelihood. But also you have the responsibility of loving the child, letting the children feel safe, letting them know that it's okay, and having that time to have a conversation so that you can get to know the child, so that you can get the information into the child. That's a lot of responsibility, and that's the huge change. That is the testing, the mounds and mounds and mounds of testing, 3 and 4 tests a year. That's a lot. And one thing that I think about, and I've asked some of my friends, I said, we didn't do all of this, and we turned out okay.
I remember we had two back, and I'm dating myself. We had the CTBS test and the BSAP. It's like, and I was like, we had those 2 tests, and yeah, it was a lot, but it was, that was it. And it is funny, like as I became a parent, I learned the different tests at the different levels, and it's like they're testing almost the entire year.
And you're an attorney, you're a businesswoman, and you only had 2 tests a year.
Yeah. Yeah, one in the fall, one in the spring. I remember that. CTBS, I remember the names, CTBS and BSAP. And I don't even remember what they stood for. But yeah. Oh, gosh. So let me ask you this. So going back to kind of the community involvement. I think that's the thing I want to continue to wrap my mind around, because I think there are so many good people within the community who want to help. But like you and Natalie both said, I think everybody has in their mind what the solution is without all these pieces talking together about what the solution is. Like, so you mentioned, the outreach from the school to the parents. What I shared with you think about the fact that there are a lot of parents who still aren't real comfortable with interacting with the school. And so the school needs to figure out how do I build that trust and that relationship interacting with the school. then the folks in the community is like, I'm retired, I have some extra time, I don't have kids, so what if I become, that resource to go into the school and help, or go into the community and help, and so there's all these little pieces that still seem like they're disjointed.
Yes.
So how do we figure that piece out so that we are addressing the whole child and being able to provide the necessary support to the children and the families so that the children are ultimately successful?
Again, thank God I'm on the 30-year end, because sometimes there are things that, okay, let me rewind, because I have learned things that we can do as we retire is to be support systems for the parents as they're going through these situations. And I will share this. I learned a lot by raising my daughter. I was a helicopter parent, but I also went and researched when I realized things were going on. So the information and the knowledge that I have, I knew how it felt when I didn't understand what was going on with my child. I knew how it felt to go into a meeting and everybody is using all these big words. And all I know is I put all of my trust into these people, and they're supposed to do what's best for my child. Then when I learned that maybe that wasn't what was best for my child, and I started researching and taking classes, what I learned, I want to be able to share with parents, and they don't know. They're scared. They don't know. All they know is, well, all many parents know is to stand and say, you're not going to do this to my child, instead of saying, what is it that we can do for my child? Being being not only proactive, but how do I say, being a partner. We don't know how to be partners with the school. As a parent, what you know, the school sharing what they know, and then the school also sharing with you the information that will empower you as a parent to make good decisions and to be a partner within whatever the decision-making system is that your child is going through. That's something that on the outside, as community people, we can start learning. We can learn about IEPs. And parents who may not be able to get to these meetings, we can be advocates for these families, or we can work with the families and go into the meetings with the parents so that they will feel that they are comfortable in this meeting. It may be a decision as to whether or not your child is going to be in AAP versus regular. Will your child be in straight academic advancement classes? Well, is that what's best? If you have someone with you to help you to sort through these decision-making processes, as a community, we can support our parents and support our children in these decision-making instances. That's one thing that I would love to see happen. And I would also love to see the schools, as I said, see the community as advocates, as partners, and not people who are against the school system, but as people who you can call in and have them as a reading buddy, or have them as someone who can come in and talk with little Johnny, who may need a grandmother's touch or a grandmother's love, so that the teacher can teach. But I just see it as a lot of pushback from different parts instead of pushing in. And I do not like that. And I share that. When I see it, I try to share that and stop it. I don't like that part.
So before we wrap up, we're close to the end. I want to go back to your next phase, because I know, and I know you're not probably not really reveal it all, but you and I have talked about this because I think there's such a need in the community. And Natalie mentioned, let me say this too. Natalie said she's not sure if it's good or bad, but she has worn many professional hats, and she feels like the parents and community need more public education about read to succeed and how the third grade score is a predictor of negative outcomes for a student. Yeah, Natalie, no, that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. I agree with you. I shared that at the very beginning. You might have not seen when we first started, but that was one of the first questions I asked Regina, because I that third grade number as a predictor really concerns me. And I feel like it allows us to make assumptions about a student's success. And allows us, it gives us permission to write certain kids off. And that's a
Right.
problem. That's a real problem.
What has happened is with the Read to Succeed, and you look at the standards and what level children should meet by a certain grade, there are family parent friendly versions of this. We need to use layman's language. Even as a person with degrees, I still say, wait a minute, explain that to me so that I can understand what it is that it's saying. And we would send home mounds of paper, read to succeed, sign this, sign that. And the only thing you knew as a parent is that if you didn't sign it, your child was going to be retained. And so you would hurry and sign it, but you didn't know what your role in this was. But now we have parent interventionists. The schools are doing a wonderful job. The district is doing a wonderful job of having parent interventionists. If the parent does not understand, it is their responsibility to call the school and say, I don't understand, but who's going to do that? So on the flip side, it's the school's responsibility to go out and not treat the parent as someone who doesn't know, but treat it as a time to empower parents and tell them, we're empowering you with this information. This makes you stronger. So it's looking up, giving people a leg up instead of looking down. And that's what we've got to do and continue to do, because the schools are doing it. We've just got to continue it and let the parents know that these resources are available.
That's exactly where I wanted to go before we close, is that empowerment piece. So I know that what you've been working on, and what God has laid on your heart to do in this next phase of your life, is to take all the education that you have, as a parent that's had to advocate for your child,
yes,
as a teacher, who has, seen, the diversity of the children who've come through, your classroom, and what the various needs are, and making sure that we're able to address all of them. And then as a community advocate who quite honestly, just be frank, lives in a community that sometimes is disregarded by certain factions because, that's just going to happen over there. And we know that, when you write off complete communities, then you can't be surprised when things don't happen positively, because you've completely written them off and not given them the support and resources necessary. So with all that said, God has laid on your heart to take all that knowledge and information and design something that does empower the community, the people in the communities, that, to all be leaders, not just for, advocating an education, but advocating for all the needs of the community. So with that said, tell us a little bit about your vision and where are the gaps, going back again to the gaps of the service that you feel like need to be addressed, so that we are empowering every citizen to be their own advocate.
Okay, Positive Pathways South Carolina is a program that we are working on to fill in the gaps and show parents how and be a conduit, I would say, from what the parents need to how to get them what they need through the school system, showing the school system that the parents what they need and how the school system can take that out to the parents in the community, sharing what the community needs with the government and how the government can take what the needs are and give the needs to the community and in non-threatening ways. That is my goal. And I will share with you, and I had to learn this. I had to take classes. People had to pull my coattail, how not to be adversarial, but how to work with a group to get the best results. And that's what I want to do. I want to share because I don't want people to go through what I had to go through to get to where I am and able to have these conversations with my counsel person. I don't want people running and hiding from people that they think are going to not give them a good conversation. So that is what I want to do. That is what I will be doing. I will also be working with parents to help them to understand IEPs or to go into the meetings with them to get what's best for their child, but also helping the parent to know that they have a responsibility and letting the teachers know don't take on too much. Only take on what you know you can do and what will be successful for help this child to be successful. And it takes a fine line to do that, but you've got to understand both sides. And I guess I know from the teacher's point of view and from the parent's point of view, and using the community as your village. Using the community as your village as far as raising the children and educating the children. I had a village. And helping parents to know that there are people out here who want to help your child succeed and who are on your side. It takes a lot, but it doesn't take a lot. When you get with those parents and you're able to talk to them one-on-one, I've made so many friends of people who are of a different socioeconomic level. But these are my friends. They'll call me, we're having a cookout, we're having a barbecue, and that's because they trust me. Or I'll tell them, I'm going to meet Tom Steyer. Come go with me. And it's just being able to navigate through all of the different worlds, but keeping who I am, humble, and just wanting everybody to succeed.
Well, I'm so proud of you, and I see that God God opens doors and He gives us life experiences that allow us to be a blessing to other people, and so I'm really excited about that new chapter because as a public official, I see the need in the community, and I can reach out as much as I can, and I can be that voice. I can be that ear and other things, but people need to feel empowered so that they can be comfortable telling me what they need, and I see that continuing to be a gap. So I love that. Natalie says, I see your passion for this work. Thanks for answering your God-given call and walking in your purpose, which I echo that, Natalie. Thank you, Regina. And thank you for being that voice. I think Natalie and someone else said earlier, about that, about thank you for speaking up, because yesterday Christy said that too, that, you know, SC for Ed, people like her who are no longer teaching can say things, but there's so many, how when she was in the classroom and how other teachers in the classroom are so worried about being able to shine a light on the things that they see, because they are worried about retaliation, repercussions, that kind of stuff. And, you know, I have no solution to that, because I want those parents, I want those great teachers to stay, you know, stay in the classrooms. So I want them to have the freedom to do what they need. But I also know that they are the best folks. You guys are the best folks to see from the inside out where their needs, and there are blinders that folks in positions. I've never been in the classroom. I have a passion for kids. I love kids. I know enough about education. I mean, my grandparents were educators, and so I know that, but I've not been in the classroom. And so for me, I can say what I think, and I can say what I want to give as support, but I need people who have had that life experience to share. And so does your school board members and our Secretary of Education and the president and other folks. And so we need that education. And like you just said, you know, you've been out there with all of them, Tom Steyer and Andrew Yang, and, you know, so, you know, we need those voices to be able to be in the ear of people that are in the position to make decisions, to make all of our lives better. So anyway, with that said, let me give you the last word for Teacher Appreciation Week. What can I, you know, even though the week is over, our appreciation for our educators need to continue every single day. But share with us one or two ways that we as a community can show our appreciation to our educators who are helping raise our babies every single day.
Looking an educator straight in the eye and saying, thank you. Straight in the eye and saying, thank you. Not appreciate you, but I appreciate you. Thank you. That sends chills through anybody when you're looking people straight in the eye and giving them that. And just continuing to support teachers by saying they're doing, when you hear someone starting to talk negative, say, wait a minute. You've learned through this coronavirus what all teachers have to do. Remember that when you get ready to speak negatively about a teacher. And so sometimes we have to remind people of that. And just always uplift. Regardless of how bad it is, find a ray of light in anything, regardless of how bad it is. Your lights may be off, but at least we're here together. We can huddle together. You know, always find a ray of light in anything.
Great. Well, I find a ray of light in you. Thank you so much for all that you do for our community, for our kids, and just being you. And so I appreciate you. Thank you for all that you have done, that you are continuing to do, and all the things that you will do, because I know that God has got major, major things for you. So with that said, I want to thank everybody for tuning in all week our appreciation of teachers, and we're going to continue this appreciation going on. And while you were talking, I had another thought of a couple other folks. I definitely want to get Jennifer Clyburn Reed on to talk about what she's doing with USC and how she's trying to really provide something special for the achievement of our African American males. So I'm thinking about her and some other folks that I want to interview, and other community topics. So y'all let me know, those of you who are watching, and those of you who are watching a replay, make sure you comment, let me know you saw and everything. But please let me know what other topics you want to hear. I don't know exactly what we're going to be talking about next week, but I've got some ideas. So we'll be back for more community conversations next week. So
I'm loving this. I'm loving this. Community conversations. I love it.
So I do too, and it's so funny because timing wise, you don't know. Like when I leave here, actually, Jamie just came in. We split our days because we're still working, and but kids are out of school, and I keep telling everybody we just had an economic, I don't remember what they call it, economic task force meeting about reopening, and the mayor, and I was texting the mayor. I was like, you know what? I said, I don't know where this fits on your committees, but you have to have somebody who's a voice for parents on here, because you're talking about opening stuff up and telling people they got to come to work, but people still got kids. And I know that I'm blessed that Jamie and I both are flexible enough that we have jobs where we can split our time. And if I absolutely need to, I can take the kids with me, but that's not ideal. But not everybody, most people don't have the flexibility we do. And you're saying you're going to open up, that's a whole nother community conversation topic, but that just gets me that we've got to think thoughtfully about what this does to our families. So, but anyway, but yeah, the community conversations, I'm hoping I can get a real good rhythm. It's been great to do 1 o'clock today. So I had a client that wanted to come in today, and I was like, I can meet you at 2:30. I was like, I got a 1 o'clock. I can meet you at 2:30. So he's come in to have the kids so I can go to the office for the rest of the afternoon. But we're going to keep the community conversations going, because I think this is the way we educate ourselves. We educate each other. And that's the biggest thing I think is the obstacle for our collective success, is not talking to people and not talking about issues. And so if I can have that platform and give that venue, I will. So, hey, Crystal, good to see you. Natalie says thanks, and continue to let your light shine, Regina. She will. She will be shining so high that we will all need sunglasses. So, but
I thank you, and I thank God. Thank you so much.
Yes, amen. But anyway, I'm going to end by saying Happy Mother's Day to everybody who's watching that is a mom. And we are all moms, whether you birthed a child or not. We are a mom to somebody. And so
yes.
I want to say Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. I look forward. I'm going to bring some kind of Mother's Day message. I don't know what, but I will. And then I'll bring you some more community conversations next week. So until next time, stay safe. God bless, and have a great, great weekend, and Happy Mother's Day.
Bye-bye.